All right, so very warm welcome to everyone who has joined us here today. Today's session focuses on understanding the genetic aspects of consanguineous marriages, an important topic where science, culture, and family health comes together. And it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Janani Dhakshina Murthy. Dr. Janani is the founder and scientific director of GeneAura Private Limited, Chennai, where she leads advanced genomic services and has developed a genomics data analysis pipeline specifically tailored for the Indian population. She is a level 2 certified genetic counselor, a clinical geneticist, and a bioinformatician, currently serving as a national postdoctoral fellow at IIT Madras. She is also a DST, Government of India recognized women scientist, recognized nationally for her contributions to genetics and women health. Clinically, Dr. Janani practices across multiple leading healthcare hospitals like Glen Eagles Global Hospitals, SRM Global Hospitals, and others, with expertise spanning reproductive and prenatal genetics, cancer genetics, lifestyle genetics, and function nutrition. Internationally, she serves as a scientific director, genomics at Well Heal by Tranquil Wellness Dubai, is associated with Oxford Society of Aging and Longevity in the UK, and is a distinguished adjunct professor at Savita University, Chennai. She is also the founder of Women Endocrine Health Foundation and the PCOS 360 community, with published research in PCOS and women's reproductive health. With this unique blend of clinical, academic, and population specific genomics expertise, we are honored to have Dr. Janani with us here today. I now invite Dr. Janani Dakshinamurthy to begin her session. Over to you, Dr. Janani.
Thank you, Akshata, for such an elaborate introduction. Yeah, hi everybody. Happy New Year to everyone online. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, just give me a minute. Yeah, so hopefully my screen is visible, and
Yes.
I'm starting with the talk. So when ORDI Chetna had approached me for this talk, we were looking out for topics, and this topic, close ties and hidden risks, talking about consanguineous marriage from Tamil Nadu, from Chennai, is huge for us, and it was a nice topic which I actually wanted to delve deeper into it. Yeah, so why are we even just talking about this? We are genetic counselors in India, and India is it's a society which is rich in culture and heritage. It also takes the culture very seriously. It is not easily let loose. The culture is given the utmost important in most parts of India. Even And especially in South India, culture is preserved. It is something as like something like an inherited property which has to be taken from generation to generation. So in that way the cultural practices are also, it is within groups, isolated groups, or individual groups. They have very different or unique practices among different groups. So sitting in the Indian context and looking at genetic counseling perspective from here, where we will also have to be very culturally sensitive when we are giving the genetic counseling for such patients. It is important to understand about consanguineous marriages. So, but is it practiced only in India? No. I've had patients from the Middle East who have the consanguinity is at even a closer level than what we see in the Indian practice. Yeah, mostly. So it's more of the Middle East, maybe Asian, the South Asian countries which has consanguinity as a practice. And yeah, they are common in several communities. The genetic implications are often not openly discussed, or they're not even aware that there can be genetic implications that if there is a consanguineous marriage. So what is consanguinity? It refers to marriages between individuals who are biologically related and share one or more common ancestors. So usually a pedigree taking of a consanguineous marriage, when you just trace back, they end up with a single parent, single set of parent, at least in either of the generations. So it is that close. So if but to be on on to see look at it very detailed, when you first degree relatives are what we call when there's a parent child marriage, or siblings marry each other because they share 50% of their genetic material is almost same. And second degree relatives, okay, this kind of practice, the first degree relative practice, are not common anymore. They are just not commonly practiced. But I wouldn't say there's nil practice of it. There is. You can still find such practices in very backward communities or very secluded communities, in tribes where they are trying to mate within themselves and improve the population. We do find such matings happening, and we do have such consanguinity degrees over there. And second degree relatives is very commonly what we find in our population currently is the uncle niece relationship. Yes, there are. If I see at least 10 patients, out of that, one or two will have married their own maternal uncle, So it's a very common practice in Tamil Nadu and some parts of South India, Andhra Pradesh also. So the West Coast usually has a very common practice. Sorry, the East Coast. Yeah, and this is a second degree relative. But apart from that, when you also have half siblings marrying each other, that also comes under a second degree relative marriage. Or double first cousins, when the parents are also siblings and then the children get married to each other, then though they are still first cousins, both their parents are siblings, so they are still considered as second degree relative marriages. So we have this is second degree relative. And third degree is again very very common within our community, is the first cousins marrying each other. It is a very common practice. It is still very prevalent, not just in the backward communities or secular communities, but it is a common practice in a common household. So this is a very common practice in at least in South India. And yeah, sometimes half uncle and niece relationships are also they also fall into the third degree relative marriages. So typically, it includes unions such as first cousins, second cousins, or uncle niece relationships. These are the common ones which we see. But yes, there are other forms of it also. So, because related individuals share a greater proportion of the genes, consanguineous marriages can influence the way certain genetic conditions inherited within their families. Yeah, so when we see how common this is, so consanguineous marriages, it occurs across the globe. It's not the only it's not practiced only in India, but they are more prevalent in regions like South Asia, the Middle East, and in North Africa. And in India, the practice varies widely depending on definitely the region in which the culture is present, the religion and the community, with higher prevalence reported in parts of South India. So in many families, this practice is continuous across generation. They've actually, normalized the practice. So doing something which is not like this is not acceptable by the family. So it is mandatory that the girls marry within the family. They stay within the community, and they cannot marry somebody else from outside the community. So this is a statistics, a survey statistics given by the government. And if you see, the highest consanguinity comes from Tamil Nadu, and next followed by Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Puducherry also follows within Tamil Nadu's ethnicity, Telangana, and then surprisingly we go directly to the north, to the Ladakh. And the others, yeah, they do have some percentage, but yeah, these are the major states with common practice of consanguinity. So in a survey data between 19 to 21, it shows that the prevalence rate of consanguineous marriage nationwide was 10.8 to 11. That's, let's say, one family out of the 10 families. And it is rising to 26 to 28% in the southern states such as Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Telangana. So in a genetic clinic where it's a norm, it's a routine to see patients with genetic disorders, 40 to 50% of the patients visiting the centers, have with a genetic problem, have a history of consanguinity in their family. So this is a clinic-wise data. And so this highlights the need for awareness and immediate action to reduce the burden of genetic disorders in India, especially considering challenges in accessing the high-cost treatment of many of these disorders. Now, there are a lot of bodies and individual players who are playing prominent role in bringing awareness about rare disorders in India. ORDI has been doing a tremendous job on that, making public awareness on how the rare disorders, they come into play, how to end a diagnostic odyssey for a rare disorder, on educating people about genetics and genetic disorders. They've been doing a tremendous job. Some other notable, prominent jobs where we're trying to eliminate a disorder which might arise out of consanguinity. One is thalassemia. If you all know Dr. Deepa, she's been doing a very great job on that. Trying to eliminate or eradicate the occurrence of thalassemia by by doing a prenatal screening, and then educating the parents on thalassemia traits, and then before they go for any prenatal planning. And in Tamil Nadu, we have Dr. Lakshmi, who also works extensively on eliminating DMD births by educating the young mothers. Though it's not an autosomal recessive disorder, it is an X-linked recessive one. But they've been educating mothers with a previous child having a DMD to avoid the birth of another child. So these are some community work. There might be more. I'm just mentioning a couple here. In this aspect, there is a responsibility for all of us who are working in the rare disorders field to to bring in about awareness, to promote the implications of a genetic a consanguineous marriage, and most likely a genetic disorder arising out of it. Yeah. So, if you see how common it is in Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, it's almost up to 50% of them, they marry within the family. And when it comes to the Western, like the America and the Europe, it's less than 1%. In India, it's community based. Its highest is among the Hindus in the South India and Muslims in the North India, and OBCs and less educated groups. Though the statistics say this way, I wouldn't actually go with this. We do have even educated families, those who want to preserve their culture, they go ahead with consanguineous marriages. And if you just roughly look at this map over here, the Indian map, which gives us the percentage of, consanguineous marriages, you can see Tamil Nadu tops, and then Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and then maybe Telangana, Maharashtra, Odisha, and then Ladakh. The rest are all, though there is a little bit of practice, but the major chunk, it lies in the southern part of the country. Yeah. So, why is it important, or why is it a sensitive topic when we talk about consanguineous marriages? They choose for a lot of reasons. The families choose consanguineous marriage for several reasons, and whatever reason we might be giving them, it might not. They might not be ready to take it in. And as genetic counselors, we don't give direct answers, but we rather it is a duty to educate them, and then they make their own decisions. But yes, it is not very easy to tell them about something which is going to happen because of a consanguineous marriages. And there are several reasons. They want to preserve the cultural traditions. They believe it's a social stability when they marry within the community. There's a trust between the families, and thus they believe the kids will have a better life. And the such marriages are often believed to strengthen family bonds, ensure financial security, and also preserve property and cultural identity. So this remains a major reason behind marrying within the family. So just briefing about what is autosomal recessive disorder. So every person body is made up of cells, and within each cell is a DNA that carries the genes. And genes act as instructions that guide growth, development, and any body functions for that matter. So everyone who carries, if there are, if you take a human, let's say you take me, I might be carrying n number of genetic variations, and these variations may not harm me directly. And some variations, however, can affect the health when passed on in certain combinations. So I might be carrying a genetic disorder. Sorry, a gene which is known to cause a genetic disorder. Out of the two alleles, one of the gene might be having a change, while the other is not having a change. So that is how carriers are born. And when we have parents who are carriers of genes, they might not have any. They might not show any phenotypic changes. They might not show any disease symptoms per se, but when they try, when they try to reproduce, the 50% of the gametes, so the male 50% of the sperms will have normal genes, and the other 50% of the sperms will get the chromosome or the gene set where there is a mutation. Similarly, for the mother, 50% of her ova will have genes which are normal, and 50% of ova will have genes which have a genetic mutation. And by unfortunate events, when the sperm with the affected gene fertilizes the ova with the affected gene, then both the genes, both the alleles of the genes are having changes, genetic changes or variants, and it's the same variant in the same gene. Need not be same variant also, but at least if it's in the same gene, they can give phenotypic changes. That is, they can give rise to a genetic disorder, and that is how children who are affected with genetic conditions are born. And it's very sad that the parents are not aware before the child is born that they are carriers of certain genetic changes which can give rise to a genetic syndrome. So only after the birth of the first child that they usually realize that they are carrying something like this, and there runs a condition in the family. So until then, they are not aware of this. This is a very sad part. So we can educate people with consanguineous marriages to do a screening before they plan for their pregnancy or fertility. And the risk of having a child, affected child, is it's 25 percentage. And the other conditions in an autosomal recessive conditions are, so for an autosomal recessive condition to give rise to a symptom or a syndrome, both the genes, both the alleles should have a change. When only one allele has a change, it does not give any symptoms or any phenotype, and they are still carriers. They can pass on this defective gene to the next generation, but they have to be very careful about their partner's genetic makeup also, because if the partner is going to carry the same genetic changes as this person, then they can have children with genetic disorders. So carrier status, children are 50% probability, and there's another 25% probability where the children are not affected at all. Here, the sperm with the healthy gene fertilizes the healthy ova with normal genes. So both of them, they transfer the genes which do not have a genetic change, and they get an affected children, and this is a 25% chance. So from this we understand something, that consanguineous marriages can it is not just consanguineous marriages, but yeah, when a couple carrying same genetic mutations come together, they can they can give rise to children with genetic conditions, but it is not always the same thing. They can also have children without the genetic condition when planned properly. So why are we talking about consanguinity? Is that it increases the genetic risk. when partners are related, they're more likely to carry the same genetic variants inherited from a common ancestor. Like I said, when we draw the pedigree of a consanguineous couple, we end up with a single parent branch out, on maybe in the fourth generation or on the fifth generation. If both the parents carry the same altered gene, the chance of passing it on to the child also increases. And this is why consanguineous marriages are associated with a higher likelihood of certain genetic conditions, particularly autosomal recessive disorders, because the parents are not aware that they are carrying a certain genetic changes. So, understanding the numbers, all pregnancy carries some, irrespective of genetic risk or no risk, irrespective of parents carrying known mutations or not. Every pregnancy it carries some risk of birth defects or genetic conditions. So, in the general population, the risk is approximately 2%. But when it comes to consanguineous couple, the risk increases around to 4 to 6%. So while the risk is higher, then it is important to remember that this does not mean that having an affected child is inevitable. So, like I said, we can actually plan the pregnancies and choose children through IVF with embryo selection. We can choose the healthy embryo for an implantation. So, consanguinity definitely increases genetic risk, but it does not stop the couple from having a child. We can definitely empower healthy families as genetic counselors. It is a responsibility to explain this to the couple who's sitting in front of us. So the certain genetic conditions which we see more frequently or more often are inherited metabolic disorders. So inherited metabolic disorders, sometimes when they are diagnosed early on, the intervention which can be given is highly efficient. So it is very very important to understand the inherited metabolic disorders. It is important to have an early diagnosis of this, and definitely neurodevelopmental conditions. The more commonly we see hearing or vision loss and blood related disorders like thalassemia. So it not only rare disorders are they are born of a consanguineous marriages, but beyond rare genetic diseases, consanguinity is also associated with an increased risk of congenital anomalies, developmental delays, intellectual disability, and higher infant mortality. The congenital anomalies, developmental delays can be isolated, may not be a part of a syndrome, but yes, consanguinity also increases this because of the same genetic pool. So, real life impact is definitely having a child affected with a genetic syndrome has a great impact on the families. So, families affected with genetic conditions often experience emotional stress, uncertainty, and a long search for answers. So, definitely now. When they are sitting in front of a genetic counselor, the current scenario of the country is when they have already have a child with a genetic disorder, or they are facing recurrent pregnancy losses. And it is only because of this that they come and they seek a genetic counselor's help. So that means they're already married. So when we tell the couple that they are carrying certain genes which can affect their offsprings, it actually puts them under a lot of emotional stress. And they start blaming themselves. They ask, is it because we married within the family? I and then they go on blaming the parents. The parents, if they come to attend the counseling with us, they feel really bad because they keep telling, it was me who forced my child to get into this marriage. We wanted to, keep the family integrity well. So, all they feel, the first thing which comes to them is guilt. They understand that it is because of them that they have a child who's suffering. And so the first thing as a genetic counselor which we will have to face is their guilt. And sometimes they just zone out with the guilt, and they might not be able to take in or absorb any more information. We might have to sit on a repeated session for them to make them understand that though this has happened, we can avoid such incidents in the future. So the journey to diagnosis can be overwhelming. So if they have a child who has a lot of symptoms but no syndrome, matched to the symptoms, then it's a very overwhelming journey because they don't know what the child has got and what they're treating. And it is definitely financially demanding, and many families struggle with the feeling of guilt or confusion due to a lack of clear information early on. So with the genetic testing, the doctors would tell, yeah, the child has this issue, that, and it's a genetic disorder. So most of the patients who come and sit in front of us are completely, they think, I mean, they're completely destroyed by the thought that there is a genetic disorder, and they really they're lost when they come and sit in front of us. So we might have to empathize with the situation, and and discuss the impact in a very simple manner to them. And definitely the impact on the children are very small. They don't understand much, but we also don't understand what the children are thinking. They do have their own peer pressures, and they also have their own kind of stress on them. So children with genetic conditions may require specialized medical care, ongoing therapies, and long-term support. So developmental and learning challenges can affect education and social integration, placing additional demands on families and caregivers over time. Yes, so definitely, when children are not well, it is the impact is seen on the family, especially the caregiver and the family. So, what is happening without awareness is that, so imagine a family which is chasing a dream of healthy children, unaware of silent genetic risks, lurking from shared ancestry, leading to repeated affected pregnancy, miscarriages, or shocking late diagnosis. So sometimes, even when the couple have a child which which is really not doing well, and they're not able to find out why, they just, without the knowledge, they just go ahead for the next pregnancy. And we've had couples who had three children with the same disorder again and again and again. They didn't even think why the child is not behaving in the normal way. They have not taken any help from the medical sector, and they just thought of something else. And then there are a lot of myths and a lot of other thoughts also which goes around in communities, where this is being practiced. They have a lot of myth also. So they usually misguided, and then they end up having two or three children with the same disorder, which is heartbreaking at times. So each heartbreak compounds into emotional exhaustion, guilt, and endless why us questions as families cycle through grief, even without ever hearing about consanguinity's dangers. So sometimes this is a very strong. They're not even able to. They're not even able to accept it when we say it's because of consanguinity, because they would have siblings or other cousins who have again married within the same family because of the practice, cultural practice, but they would have normal children. So it is very difficult for us to make them understand why they have normal children, why their genes are affecting their offsprings. So when we have two siblings, two sisters, uh, marrying two brothers, while the one pair, they have they have healthy children, while the other pair does not have. That's in even a difficult scenario where we have to explain this to the couple and then to the family that they have similar genetic mutations. So the relentless group, one affected child becomes two and then three. So the risk higher, the risk turns hope into pattern over here. So emotional avalanche, isolation, shattered trust in tradition, financial ruin from endless treatments. And one conversation can change everything. So early counseling snaps a chain. It's sparing generations unimaginable pain. And once they are educated, once we are able to spread some awareness or knowledge to the communities around us, at least, so early awareness and accessible genetic testing and compassionate counseling, very important, can transform hidden dangerous into informed power, halting generational heartbreak even before it can begin. So that is a power, because, like I said, they when you put it on paper and when you put it on slides, it is, and then even with genetic testing, they're not able to accept the fact that it is because of a consanguineous marriage, because it is a tradition. Just like how we pray every day, how we eat every day, they have been doing this as a tradition. Marrying within the family, and it is not easy to change the tradition or from their conception. We definitely require strong and compassionate genetic counseling for them to understand the concept behind this, whatever you're trying to tell. So the families armed with facts make confident choices from preconception screening and IVF with PGT to thoughtful partner selection or late diagnosis instead of late diagnosis, endless grief, and skyrocketing medical bills. So at least when we tell them that they can still go ahead with the marriage, get a couple carrier screening, and in case the couple has are carrying similar variants, then they can definitely go through IVF and PGT. So these information can at least avoid the burden of genetic disorders. So how can we actually educate the families is by making them understand about carrier screenings and then giving them tailored guidance. So counselors speak over the report in plain language, and they also help them map personalized paths, what to do further from there. And stories of Trump is there are families who come back and say testing has saved a third child. We have a healthy child after 3 to 4 pregnancies, and they share relief and share replace regrets and tradition also it evolves wisely. So we're not trying to be against a tradition which has been in practice for a very long time, or we also don't want to break marriages here. But when it is consanguineous marriages, we just want the people to take informed decisions over here. So carrier screening can help identify individuals who carry genetic variants that could affect their future children. This is particularly valuable for consanguineous couple and families with a history of genetic conditions. Ideally, this screening can be done before marriage. In Chennai, we get a lot of couple who come for premarital genetic screening, and so even but at least if that's not done, they can even do it before planning a pregnancy. So premarital preconception screening it screens for genetic risks which are associated with consanguinity and can be reduced through appropriate genetic services. The goal here is not to discourage marriages, like I just said, but to support families by identifying risk early and providing options that promote healthier outcome. And during pregnancy, screening and diagnostic tests can help assess fetal health. So when we see fetal anomalies, that is a sign for further genetic testing. So these tests offer specific stages. They provide valuable information that allow families and healthcare providers to prepare for potential outcomes and plan appropriate care. Sometimes it is not essential. It is not necessary that every positive genetic testing report of a fetal should end in an abortion. Sometimes when the disorder is managed, like some inborn errors of metabolism, which when identified early on with timely intervention, the child can have a normal metabolism after that. Of course, supported by some medications and some practices, but still, at least a child can have a metabolism and can grow well. Then it's a family's choice to go ahead with the pregnancy or to abort the pregnancy. So it's sometimes understanding the genetic risk behind the phenotypic changes which we are observing, and also by understanding how this gene change will progress or prognosis of the gene change in the specific individual. It can help us take some informed decision, very importantly during the prenatal or the fetal stages. And newborn screening and early diagnosis is definitely it is a chain breaker in the in breaking the diagnostic odyssey, because 2 to 3 years ago the diagnostic odyssey of understanding the genetic disorder was so bad that it took at least on an average between 4 to 5 years before a doctor can come to a conclusion or come to a diagnosis for which a child is being present to them. So right now, with more usage of genetic testing, at least the whole exome sequencing, a lot more is being done right now. But still, it is not a very straightforward results. And in India, since we don't have proper databases, we do lack a lot of literature-based support or evidence for the variants which we are identifying. It becomes very difficult to map a phenotype to a genotype. And so newborn screening plays a crucial role in high-risk families by enabling early detection of certain genetic and metabolic conditions. So early diagnosis allows prompt treatment, which can significantly improve long-term health and developmental outcomes. So, role of genetic counseling is very, very important. Genetic counseling helps families understand their risk, test results, and available options. It also provides emotional support and ensures that decisions are made with informed consent. So, counseling is non-directive, respecting each family's values and choices. So, like I said, the whole purpose of this presentation or talk is not to change the tradition or to ask somebody to not to go ahead with. Their cultural beliefs, such as consanguineous marriages. But the whole purpose of the presentation is to bring about more awareness, to spread education of the risks which is there behind consanguineous marriages, which may be autosomal recessive disorders. When we educate them and make the families take informed choices is very, very important. So ethical and cultural sensory effective genetic care requires respect for cultural benefits and traditions. So avoiding stigma and fear-based messaging is essential, and building trust with families ensures that genetic information is shared in a supportive and a respectful manner. So yeah, I'm just putting across some fun fact because we've been talking for a long time. So myth and fact. So most of them say it's just cultural. Genetic risks are rare. So yeah, this is genetic risks are rare, definitely. Many of them think genetic disorders are not very common, but as genetic counselors, when you sit in the hospital and look at genetic patients, you know it is not that rare as it is portrayed. So it is 2 to 3 times higher recessive disorder risk. 10.8% in India prevalence means that at least 1 in 10 families are affected. So that is not really rare. So carriers have no health issues. Silent carriers do not have outright phenotypes, but there are chances. So there are people who have mild changes, and they pass on the risk to the offspring, and the offspring faces 25% chance per pregnancy if both parents are carriers. So testing is expensive and unnecessary. There are affordable carrier panels right now, which can screen condition. So spending for a test and having an early diagnosis will actually save a lot of finance on the burden of getting appropriate diagnosis, and then it's appropriate medications. So only outsiders bring genetic problem. Yes, it's again a myth that they don't marry outside the community because it is not right. So close kin share identical mutations and it spikes identical homozygous risk. So one healthy child means that they are safe. So like I said, when there are two couples, when the first couple has a normal child, then that's when they go ahead and get the second child also married to the brother of the same person. It may not be same. It is different from person to person. So yeah, in our clinic in GeneAura's cases, it's a surprising chart which I wanted to show you. Out of all the autosomal recessive disorders who have inherited one trait from each of their parent, 41 percentage of the total patient population have consanguineous marriages, while the remaining 59 percentage are non-consanguineous. So we really don't know if they, how this is, how we find this change. But definitely, yes. So these people, mostly they're from the same locality or they are from the same community. They might have common ancestors, which they themselves might not be aware of it. Because the practice is very old and it has been going on for a very long time. So in the consanguineous couples, but this is something interesting which I would like to show to you. In the consanguineous couples, so genetics is often sought after an impact only. So this data highlights the need to shift towards prevention. So when do they do a genetic testing? When they have an anomaly scan, when there's recurrent pregnancy loss, when they have previously affected child, or primary or secondary infertility. So they nobody even looks at genetics or genetic compatibility before planning a pregnancy. So maybe just one case study. A couple in the late 20s, they are married within the first cousins have married each other, and they are referred for genetic counseling after adverse reproductive outcomes. So the child with developmental delay and recurrent hospitalizations, they don't have a diagnosis. Child has passed away at 2 years. They have not saved DNA. They have not saved any reports. And sadly, sometimes when the child passes away, even the medical history is thrown out after that. They don't out of sentiments, they don't keep any files with them. So it sometimes becomes very difficult for us to obtain the HPO terms from the clinical records. And second pregnancy, they had a spontaneous abortion. And third pregnancy, they had an abnormal anomaly scan 20 weeks, and multiple structural anomalies were detected. On the genetic evaluation, we did a three generation pedigree. The consanguinity was observed across generations, and similar childhood deaths were found in both the sides of the extended family. And the again, just like this couple who had the first child who passed away, the other couples in the family also did not, take time or put efforts to screen why there is a child's death. So genetic testing was identified. Autosomal recessive metabolic disorder was so since we did not have the DNA or any information about the baby, we had to do a couple carrier screening for the parents, and then we identified that they are both carrying a recessive gene for metabolic disorder. So both partners were carriers of the same pathogenic variant. So, key learning messages: consanguinity increases the chance of sharing the same recessive variant. Lack of early counseling, delayed diagnosis, and increased emotional burden. Awareness and early genetic counseling could have changed the journey of that particular couple. So, this case is not about questioning family choices, it shows how hidden genetic risks can surface only after the impact, and how timely genetic counseling can empower families with knowledge and options. So, an overall takeaway would be key takeaway is that consanguineous marriages are culturally and socially rooted practices. So, we cannot disturb them, and we cannot say it cannot happen. So, genetics help explain health risks without assigning fault. Awareness and access to genetic services empower families to make informed decisions that improve health outcomes. So, understanding the risk clearly, and increased genetic risk does not mean certainty. Most children born to consanguineous couples are healthy. So risk varies depending on the degree of relatedness, family history, and individual genetic background. So we cannot provide this prenatal or these kind of choices on children with for certain genetic conditions like cancers. We cannot do this prenatal screening for a BRCA right now. It is not advisable, because this is again does not have certainty. It is just putting the person at a predisposed risk. So there are certain conditions for which is not covered in a couple carrier screening. It's more of Mendelian disorders and disorders which affect a child. So how knowledge changes outcome. Each early identification of genetic risk allows timely testing, preventive care, and informed reproductive choices. So the genetic enables a shift from reactive care to proactive planning, benefiting both the families and the healthcare systems, obviously. So genetic counseling provides a safe space for discussion and decision making. It respects cultural values and personal beliefs while focusing on information, understanding, and emotional support, and most importantly, transferring the support to the patient sitting in front of us. Yeah, I'm done. If you have questions, I'm ready to take them.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Janani, for a very insightful and a thoughtful session. You have helped simplify a sensitive and often misunderstood topic, and more importantly, highlighted how awareness and timely genetic counseling can empower families without judgment and fear. So we do have one comment from the participants. Somebody says that Mehvish Kashif, they say, I think before marriage, carrier screening must be mandatory practice for the couple. What would you like to comment upon it, please?
Yeah. So again, we are in a very price sensitive, country. It is not very easy for us to mandate something which is very pricey on every couple. So and also every medical practice, it thrives on evidence. So when the medical practice recommends a test or recommends for some further evaluation, it is backed by an evidence. So without evidence or without an evidence, sending somebody for a genetic counseling, sending a couple for genetic counseling or for a carrier testing, making it mandatory would actually give a lot of confusion in the family and the community as well. See, more than all of this, we will also have to normalize what we are looking at, because weddings and then a family and then the couple planning a family, it is something which has to happen spontaneously and out of joy and love. Mostly we'll have to look at it that angle too, and mandating a carrier screening test on this process would actually put in a bit of confusion, anxiety, and stress on the couple too. So unless and until there is some evidence, it cannot be mandated, but definitely the choice is open. Yeah, so that is why we say, as genetic counselors or people from the genetics field, we need to spread awareness as much as possible, educating the young couples or couple to be on risks which they might be carrying. And it's always good to be informative. The upcoming generation is a little more proactive, and they are open to looking at new ideas and discussions too. So definitely the awareness can be given out, a lot of education can happen, but mandating, I think that might not be a right thing to do. That's my opinion.
Right. Thank you. And another question we have is, how important is population-specific carrier screening panel design, especially for India with diverse ethnic backgrounds and high consanguinity rates? Even I had the same question to ask, if we have any particular databases, founder mutations specifically stored for the regions that could help genetic counselors like us even to go forward with
Yeah.
it.
So one common thing which we have found out in certain specific areas is thalassemia. I think that is we had enough information, and so I mean the database is yet to be put together, but there are certain high risk areas in South India where thalassemia is of high prevalence, and they could do a screening. But with my personal experience, I would say that I don't want to restrict it to a panel specific for population. We are way too early for that, because most of the times we are again ending up with a lot of VUS. Couple having same variants, but it's again uncertain. We are not sure of how that variant is going to affect their offsprings. So but then VUS has a certain rules to be followed when it has to be made actionable. Out of that, family segregation is very, very important. So looking at that, we find some variants. So right now I don't think we can have a panel specific carrier screening. It has to be a generalized carrier screening.
Right. So I think we don't have any more questions. Yeah. So to summarize, today's discussion clearly highlighted that awareness and timely genetic counseling can make a meaningful difference, not by challenging the decisions or traditions than by protecting the families and their future generations. We don't intend to go against anybody's tradition, but timely advice can help a lot of generations in the future. And I once again thank our speaker, Dr. Janani, and to everyone who has joined us today. We look forward to having you with us in the more ORDI sessions.
Ma'am, there is few questions in our queue.
Yeah,
Please
all
chat.
right. Oh, uh, no, ma'am. Somebody was not able to hear the session, I guess. Yeah, we have closed the questions. Yeah.
I would like to thank ORDI for organizing this wonderful event, and definitely we would want to create more awareness about rare disorders and autosomal recessive disorders in the highly prevalent state of India, Tamil Nadu. So yeah, we're joining hands with ORDI for the same also. And very well moderated, Miss Akshata. Thank you so much for being a very nice host today. And yeah, I'm open to questions. If you have any more after the meet also, you can just write a mail to me and I would be happy to answer that. Yeah.
Yes. So, Chetna ji, I think we'll
Yeah,
close.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.